Hey guys, it's Melanie. Welcome to my channel. Today starts my March wrap-up vlog, so stay tuned. So it is Tuesday, March 2nd, and I've already completed one book. So yesterday I finished The Red Pyramid by Rick Riordan. This is the first book in the Kane Chronicles, and I have to say, I really enjoyed this. I give it 4 stars. I actually think I like this series more than I like the Percy Jackson series. This was so much fun. And where the Percy Jackson series follows the Greek gods, this follows the Egyptian gods, and our two main characters, Sadie and Carter, when they were like 6 years old, their mother passed away, and the mother's parents, so the grandparents on the mother's side, they took Sadie and raised her, and Carter went with his dad, and his dad's an Egyptologist and studies pharaohs and the pyramids and all that stuff. And Carter was with him and homeschooled. So Carter looks like his dad, and him and his dad are both black. Their mother was white, and Sadie actually looks more like her mother. Blonde hair, blue eyes, and all of that. And so when people see these two together, they don't really think they're related, but they are. They're brothers and sisters. And Sadie only gets to spend 2 days a year with her father. And so on one of these days, he picks Sadie up and they go to this museum. Just supposed to be a quick visit. And their father activates something in this Rosetta Stone, and it ends up releasing these gods. And the gods need a host, so Isis goes inside of Sadie, and Horus goes inside of Carter, and Set, who is like the god of chaos, he is also released, and they don't know who's hosting Set. And there are a couple other gods released as well. There's also Osiris and Nephesis. And Carter and Sadie, they need to get together and try to find Set and put a stop to him, because he wants to pretty much take over the world and cause a lot of chaos, because Set is the god of chaos. And they're also kind of fighting the gods that their bodies are hosting, because these gods want to take over and be in control, and they're like, no. But they could use a little bit of the help from these gods. This was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. This was a buddy read, and I can't wait to start the next one, which is also a buddy read, and I'm starting that today. So if I didn't say already, I give this 4 stars. So it is Wednesday, March 3rd, and I have just completed one more book. I finished the Bromance book club by Alyssa K. Adams. I give this 5 stars. This book is freaking fabulous. I love it so much. Okay, so this, for one, it's set in Tennessee, which I didn't know going in, and I think is really, really cool. I live here in Tennessee. This was set just a couple of hours from here, which is really neat. But this follows a Major League Baseball player who just finds out that his wife has been faking it, and he doesn't really take it very well. His pride takes a big hit, and there's a lot of sulking involved. He ends up moving into the guest room, and after a while his wife is tired of it and asks for a divorce. He leaves and is in really bad shape. He is just devastated. He loves his wife so very much, and he's also really hurt because of this, and he sinks to the bottom of a bottle, and it's just a mess until some of his teammates and friends of his, they come and they pull him out of this. They sober him up, and they're like, we're gonna help you get your wife back. And they tell him about the Bromance book club, where they read romance novels and use that to help fix their relationships. They've all apparently been there, though nobody else really knew anybody was struggling with anything in their relationships. But these romance novels have helped them put their families back together and all of that. And so they're like, we're going to help you save your marriage. and he is willing to do absolutely anything, including read Regency romance and have a book club in order to save his marriage. And he does, and it's just, oh, this book, my heart. I just, how much he loves his wife and how much he tries, and it was so heartwarming and lovely, and I just absolutely adored this, and I give it 5 stars. So it is Friday, March 5th, and I've sort of completed 2 more books. So the first book that I did complete was yesterday, and that was Lucky Caller by Emma Mills. And this is a super cute little story. It's YA contemporary about a girl named Nina who, her school has this radio station this radio station class, and they group everybody up into like 4-person groups, and you create your own radio station. And her group, things don't go quite as hoped, and their station is, their channel, their show is not doing as well as they would like, and they decide to do this reveal of a special guest slash host that's going to come, and they start giving hints about who this special guest is going to be, and things get way out of control when people start guessing that it's this big celebrity rock star, and they can't seem to squash that. And there gets to be a lot of buzz about their guest star, and their teacher decides to sell tickets to this event, and they end up selling like hundreds of tickets. And yeah, as you can guess, things don't go the way that they planned, because they don't have some big rock star. But it was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed it, and I give it 4 stars. And the other book that I finished because I'm not going to continue reading it, that is House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski. This book, in my opinion, is complete nonsense and is not a pleasant reading experience, and it's just kind of stupid. I really didn't like it. I got 52 pages into it, and I just couldn't do it anymore. And this is not a small book. Like, the pages are like this, but this story is just so weird. So you have this 80-year-old man who essentially wrote a book, but it's in like 1 million pages, and random scraps of paper, and even bubblegum wrappers, and notebook paper, and napkins, but he wrote this book and put it all in this trunk, and it's about like critiquing, I guess, a documentary. But this is a documentary that never actually existed, but he writes this book as if this documentary was a real thing, and has footnotes and stuff from articles, like quoting articles and all kinds of stuff. And some of these articles are real articles, and some of them are just completely fabricated to go along with this documentary thing. And anyway, this 80-year-old guy dies, and somebody else, our storyteller, he finds the trunk, and we're hearing his story of him reading this book and how it's affecting him, and also all of the things going on in his life. But his story is sort of like a footnote, and then we have the book, and then we have bits of this documentary as well. And the documentary is about a man whose house is bigger on the inside than it is on the outside by like 1/4 of an inch. But again, this documentary isn't real. And yeah, so here's an example of how this story is told. So this part right here is from the book, and it's talking about the equations and echoes and the myths of echoes and how that relates to something that was in the documentary. How they in the documentary there was this echo, and so he went into this whole several page spiel about the myth of echoes and science of echoes and the equations of echoes and all of that. And so that's what this is. And then we have like some footnotes starting here and going down to like right here. But then this last footnote is actually this from like our storyteller, the one that found this and is reading it. And he's talking about like he ate some mushrooms and he got like sick in the 7-Eleven and sex with some girl, and yeah, this book is just not fun to try to read at all. And yeah, 1 star, DNFing it. Bye bye. So it is Sunday, March 7th, and I've completed one more book. I finished The Last Time I Lied by Riley Sagar. This is actually a reread for me. I didn't realize it until I started it that I had read it before. But this was for the Buzzwordathon for reading a book with time in the title. And this follows a girl named Emma who, when she's 13 years old, she goes to this exclusive camp, and during that time her 3 cabin mates, they disappear, and she ends up accusing the son of the owner of having something to do with these girls disappearing, and it causes a lot of issues with this camp. The camp ends up shutting down. The family goes through a lot of hard times, and Emma really struggles with her guilt for the part she played in this. And then fast forward 15 years later, Emma's like still obsessed with these 3 girls. She's an artist. She paints them into every single one of her paintings and hides them away. And she's still just haunted by what happened. And the owner of this camp has reached out to her and wants her to come back to the camp. They've been shut down for 15 years, but they want to open back up for at least one more summer, and they want Emma to come and be an art teacher, as well as some other former camp guests coming back to be counselors or teach their craft. And Emma ends up in the same cabin that she was 15 years ago, and she's in charge of 3 young girls. And something similar happens where her 3 cabin mates disappear, and they believe Emma has something to do with it. This was really good, and I gave it 4 stars. So it is Monday, March 8th, and I've completed one more book. I finished The Throne of Fire by Rick Riordan. This is the 2nd book in the Kane Chronicles. And I already spoke earlier in this video about the 1st book, so I'm not really going to go into this, but I give this one 4 stars. I'm really enjoying the series. So it is Monday, March 15th, and I have completed 3 more books. Hello, Katniss. So I have to like look at the date on my phone here. I believe it was Monday the 8th or Tuesday the 9th. I completed As Old as Time by Liz Braswell. This is one of the Twisted Tales, and this one is What If Belle's Mother Cursed the Beast. And it's an interesting take. It's very much based on like the whole Disney Beauty and the Beast, and really that pretty much explains it all. It's if Belle's mother was this beautiful enchantress, and she wanted to test the prince to see if his heart was like his parents and didn't have love for his people. And so she showed up as an old haggard woman, and but he was a small child at the time, not like the 20-something-year-old spoiled brat. And he was just a 10-year-old spoiled brat or an 11-year-old spoiled brat, and she gave him until he turned 21 to break this curse. And most of the story follows along with the Disney story, but there are little twists in it. I really enjoyed it, and I give it 4 stars. Then yesterday, on Sunday the 14th, I completed House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. This is the first book in the Crescent City trilogy. Trilogy or series? I'm not sure. But this is hard to explain. There's so much going on in this. This is like Siege and Storm meets The Mortal Instruments meets Akatar meets Throne of Glass. Yeah, that pretty much sums it up, I think. So this is set in a world where, oh, also meets Norse mythology. There's like a lot crammed into this. So it's urban fantasy, so it's like our world, but there are vampires and shapeshifters and angels and just all kinds of stuff like that walking around, and everybody's aware of them. It's not, and magic is not something that's like a secret, like it's common kind of thing. Fae, all of that is normal in this world. And our main character, Bryce, she is half fae, half human, and her best friend Danica is murdered. Danica is a shapeshifter, and her whole like wolf shape-shifting tribe, clan, group, whatever you call it, they're all murdered, and nobody ever finds who did it. And Bryce is just the shell of a person with Danica gone. And I think it's 2 years later, and she has the opportunity to investigate this murder and try to find out what actually happened to her friend. And Bryce is teamed up with Hunt Athalar. He is sort of a fallen angel that, because of rebelling, he is now enslaved to an archangel, and he's like the shadow of death kind of thing, and he has to go out and kill the people that Micah, the archangel, wants him to kill. And now he is given this opportunity to bring down his debt to almost nothing if he helps Bryce in solving this case. And they don't like each other at the start, and I mean, there is, because this is Sarah J. Maas, there is some smut, there is some romance, but it's different from her others as it's a slow build. It's cute watching their relationship form and their friendship form, and then all the sexual tension that starts to form from that. And when things do finally get steamy, it gets real steamy, and I love it. But I will say that the first 200 pages of this book were like hard to get into. After that, I really enjoyed it. I would say the first 200 pages would have made it like a 4-star read for me, but the last 200 pages would have made it like a 5-star for me. So I'm giving this 4.5 stars, and I really cannot wait to continue this series. And again, I want to thank Kaylani for gifting this to me. I know she loves it, and I know she's got a tattoo of something from this book, and I'd seen it before, but it didn't really, register about, what the tattoo is about and stuff until after I've read it. And so I've since had her send me a picture of her tattoo again, and I'm like, I love that. But yes, 4.5 stars. And then tonight I finished The Descent of the Drowned by Anna Lal Den. And if I'm correct, this book actually was released today, but I had an arc of it. And it's taken me a little while to get through it just because I didn't have a huge amount of time for sitting and physically reading. But this book is freaking fabulous. Oh my goodness. Like, I talked about this a lot in a multiple live shows where I was reading it, and it's such a hard-hitting book. So it's written by Anna Lal Den, and she is a Danish-Pakistani author currently based in England. And oh man, she does not hold back in this book. Okay, so I'm trying to figure out how to describe this book without spoiling anything. So we have Roma, and Roma is, and I'm not sure if I'm saying this right, but Devadasi, that's the only thing I can think of. And that is a slave of God. It is used to refer to slaves of deities in Biranpur, Lamiapur, Mantapur, and Uzapur. Essentially, they are sold or donated by their family to be pretty much to be prostitutes, but in the name of this goddess. So they're like holy prostitutes. And Roma, she isn't okay with this. And she had, so the men that acquire these Devadasis are called patrons. And when she was just a child, she was sold to a patron who was very cruel and did terrible things to her and left her very, very scarred on the inside. And afterwards, she scarred herself terribly on the outside. She sliced up her face at 14 so that she couldn't be auctioned off, at least for a while, because nobody'd want her because she was damaged. And so for 3 years, she hasn't had to deal with that, but then it comes up that she is going to be auctioned off again, and she's terrified, and she doesn't want anybody even touching her, let alone having to be sold off to somebody for whatever they want. And there are definitely trigger warnings for rape in here. There's also human trafficking. There are children put in kennels to be sold for like an organ trade. There's a lot of physical abuse. There's a lot of trauma in this book. And it's a really hard hitting book, but it's so good. And there are a few things that I've marked in here, like quotes that I thought were really great. One here is talking about how the way that their caste system and everything works is keeping the low where they're just struggling to survive, because if they're too worried about surviving, they're not going to be worried about rebelling. And this says, when people lived primitive lives, striving to cover their basic needs, humanity was bound to shrink. There is no optimum system to secure them, to ensure they had the surplus of mental and physical resources to lead humane lives. The regime did everything it could to reduce their thinking down to plain subsistence. That way, they were too preoccupied surviving to fight for their rights, much less realize they had rights. And then we have this one, and she's referring to things that happened to her, I guess. It's part of the conversation. And she says, the worst kind of monsters are those who pretend they're human. And I thought that was just like very profound. Also, we have, when your sins push you to your knees, you crawl toward redemption. You don't surrender. And he says, it's dark where I am. It's always been dark. And she says, light a candle. And then this last one here, it was just, oh my goodness. Silence wasn't within her might, because silence was suffocation. She just couldn't be silent anymore. And oh my God, this book, 5 stars. It is so fabulous. Like I said, there's a lot of hard-hitting topics in here. It doesn't hold back. But if you like reading things like that, I highly recommend it, and I give this 5 stars. is Ray Bear by Jordan Fuego. I think it's based on like some African folklore. It's about a girl named Teresai who is born of this woman. They just refer to her as the lady, and an arrow. But this arrow, it's like the arrow is a genie or something like that, and had to grant her 3 wishes. And one, like, I forget what her first wish was, but her second wish was to have a daughter that would do anything she commanded. And then the third wish was for this genie to sire this child. So Teresai is, I guess, part human, part demon, genie, something, arrow. And she has this ability to take memories. So she can touch any object or person and pull memories from them. She gives them back, usually. But she can take memories. And her mother has had tutors and stuff training her so that she could one day, I guess, compete to become one of the Prince's 11, his council or whatever. And she's now been sent off to compete or whatever for this position. And her mother has commanded her to, once she has been accepted and anointed by this prince and been given the ray or whatever, that she must kill the prince. And so she's going through and doing all the things she's supposed to do, but she doesn't want to kill the prince. And so she keeps refusing to let him do this ray thing on her. She likes the prince very much and doesn't want to hurt him or really anybody. And I give this 4 stars. I feel like I already explained what this is about, but so I won't go into it again. But I really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to reading the sequel whenever that comes out. And last night I pretty much stayed up until like 1 a.m. this morning so I could finish my reread of A Semi-Definitive List of Worst Nightmares by Crystal Sutherland. This is the group book. I was reading this throughout the sprints on Wednesday and then finished it yesterday. Love this book. It's so freaking good. It is about a girl named Esther Soler who believes that her family has been cursed by death for each person in her family to die by their greatest fear. And so Esther believes that as long as she doesn't let anything really frighten her, then she'll never get sucked into this curse and she can kind of avoid it. So anytime she has the slightest hint of fear, she adds whatever it is to this semi-definitive list of worst nightmares. And then she avoids it for the rest of her life until the day she meets back up with her elementary school crush who pickpockets her and leaves her stranded with no phone. And he also has pickpocketed her list and has decided to take it upon himself to help her conquer these fears. And it's such a good book. And it's not like, there are parts where it's light and fluffy, and there's so much humor in this book. Like, it is such a funny book, but there's this underlying just sadness to this book as well. And it just keeps getting like, the light fluffy kind of fades into the background quite a bit after a while, and it becomes much heavier, and it discusses a lot of different mental illnesses, and there's definitely some pretty dark parts in here, but this is an absolutely amazing book, and I give it 5 stars. I read Peter Pan by J.M. Barrie, and I give this 5 stars. It was fun. I love these kind of books. And I don't think I really need to tell anybody what Peter Pan's about. But it is funny where Tink calls him an ass repeatedly. That was Rebel Belle by Rachel Hawkins. And I give this 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. It kind of gave me like Southern Belle Buffy vibes, and that was a lot of fun. I did listen to the audiobook, and I can say it took a while to adjust to the really thick Southern accent that was used in the audiobook, but the book was a lot of fun. Our main character, Harper Price, she is like this Southern belle. She's like the president of student council. She's homecoming queen, all of this stuff. And the night of homecoming, she's in the bathroom adjusting her lip gloss when in comes the janitor bleeding out. And he ends up, well, he's not who he seems, and he ends up passing on some essentially superpowers to her. And turns out he was a paladin, and now she is. And she has like this duty to protect her biggest rival in the entire school. And he's like the head of the newspaper, and he's always like writing nasty things about her. But this was a lot of fun. There's people that are after both her, after him, and there are mages or witches, and there's also like high school and boyfriend drama and all of that. And it's just, it was a good time, and I'm looking forward to reading the rest of the series. I also read Love and Gelato by Jenna Evans Welch. This follows Lena, who her mother's dying wish was for her to go to Tuscany and get to know her father and, you know, spend some time with him. And she does this, and when she gets there, there is a journal that was her mother's, and she gets to see Italy through her mother's eyes a little bit and learn a lot about her mother that she had no idea about. And this was a lot of fun as well. And I also give this 4 stars. And because there was still time left in the day and I was still working on my shelves on Sunday, I decided to listen to another audiobook, and I found Love, Sugar, Magic, A Sprinkle of Spirits, which is the second book in the Love, Sugar, Magic series. This is by Ana Mariano, and this follows a Hispanic family. They're a bunch of brujas, and they have like a food magic, and they work in a bakery. And there has been some magic that has gone awry in this one, which has made ghosts like their abuela, who they've been able to talk to as a ghost, now have a physical form, like a physical body. And ghosts are popping up all over the neighborhood. Well, they're not ghosts anymore, they actually are people, but then they seem to be reversing in age as they go. And this was a lot of fun. I really enjoy this series. It's super cute. I give this one 4 stars as well. So it is Tuesday, March 30th, and I have completed 3 more books. So on Friday the 26th, I completed The Kingdom of Beck by Marie Lu. This follows the Mozart family, and everybody knows about Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, but nobody really knows anything about his sister. And this kind of is her story, and like she is our main character. Her name is Nannerl, and Wolfgang, he strives to be like his big sister. She was like the prodigy musician before he ever even came around, and once he started showing talent, she was more like a sidekick kind of thing, because she's a girl, and she wasn't to compose because that's just for men, and she was assigned as caregiver a lot of time for her brother and things like that. So their Kingdom of Beck started out as sort of stories that Nannerl would tell to Wolfgang, and this was to pass the time on their carriage rides from destination to destination where they were going to perform. And this takes sort of a magical turn where this make-believe kingdom that they've created kind of comes to life. But the Kingdom of Beck isn't all happy and fantasy as it may seem. There's some dark parts to it, and they call it the Kingdom of Beck because everything is backwards. The trees grow upside down. That world is a reflection of our own. It was really good. I really enjoyed it, and I give it 4 stars. And then on Saturday the 27th, I completed Cindyella by Robin Palmer. Now, this book, okay, so this is a current day Cinderella retelling, really. But, well, not current day. This was written in 2007, and this book very, 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 very much dates itself. I personally really enjoyed it. However, this is not going to be a book for everybody because of, I think mostly because of how dated it is and how it's written, like the maturity level. It's definitely not as well written as, say, The Kingdom of Beck. I think if anything, most people would probably give this around a 3-star. I, however, am going to give it 4 stars just because I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun to me. But, I mean, it's not the best written thing, and as I said, it's very, very dated. It talks about MySpace and like Paris Hilton and Avril Lavigne, and I told somebody that this was like if you took Clueless and mashed it up with the Cinderella story that had Hilary Duff. That was kind of like the vibe that I got from this. And there was funny, like one thing I actually took a picture of and sent it to my little buddy read group, telling them about how dated this was and showing an example of that. And it says, they're talking about this boy that, like, the most popular boy in school, and everybody's talking about who he's going to go to the prom with. And she says, "Nope, but if he did, I bet he'll go with someone like Miley Cyrus." I said, "Who's Miley Cyrus?" Noah asked. "You know, Hannah Montana." "Who's Hannah Montana?" the semi-nerd in him asked. "The Disney show?" Yeah, I was like, whoo. That's kind of funny looking back on it now. But this follows a girl named Cindyella Gold who, well, there's definitely a twist to the Cinderella story because she does have a stepmother and stepsisters, but her dad's still around. Like, he's not dead as in the other Cinderella stories. And the stepmother, though she's odd, she's not really evil. She's not that bad. The stepsisters are annoying, but not terrible. And like the stepmother wants her to go out and have fun to an extent and wants to take her shopping and things like that. But she is an odd one. And Cindy is very anti-prom, and she writes this letter to the editor of her school paper, and it kind of turns the entire school against her, and she's having to deal with all the drama of that. Yeah, that's what this is about. It was fun. I do give it 4 stars, but again, that's my personal enjoyment. And today I finished The Madness Underneath by Maureen Johnson. This is the second book in the Shades of London series, and this follows a girl who can see ghosts. In the first book, and this happens pretty early on in the book, our main character, Rory, I don't know why my brain just went blank. Rory chokes on some food and like almost dies, but doesn't. And when she survives, she ends up with this ability to be able to see ghosts. And there is also this Jack the Ripper killer on the loose. This is all set in London, obviously, Shades of London. Anyway, there's this Jack the Ripper killer going around, and she believes that it is a ghost and not an actual person. And that's all I can really tell you about the first book because I don't want to spoil anything, so I can't really tell you too much about this one. But I give it 4 stars and I really, really enjoy it. So 4 stars for all 3 of those, yay. And I don't expect that I'm going to get anything finished tomorrow because I am currently reading 2 other books, but I'm like pretty much close to the beginning of both of those books, so I don't expect to finish them tomorrow. So I'm going to just go ahead and wrap this wrap-up vlog here. So if I'm not forgetting any of the books that I read this month, or maybe there was an audiobook that I'm not calculating in, oh, it seems as though these are the 18 books that I managed to read in March. And I have to say I'm pretty impressed with having read this much, because this month was crazy and super busy with having to pack up our entire house pretty much and get new floors done. So I'm super tickled with how much I managed to read. Like, I didn't complete all of the challenges for all the games that I was doing, but I still read a lot and I'm not mad. So have you guys read any of these books? Did you like them? Did you not? Comment down below and let me know. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give me a big thumbs up. If you'd like to see more videos like this, click that subscribe button down below. And until next time, remember to always be completely you.